Is that really what your grandmother left you?
You came all this way for a broken building?
Nia stands silently. Her fingers tighten around the keys. Everyone thought Nia inherited a disaster. Nobody knew she had inherited something that would change Willow Creek forever. Willow Creek did not always look like this. 10 years ago, there were no glass mansions. No marble driveways. No security gates humming with cameras. Back then, the town was just rooftops and dirt roads, children running barefoot between houses that all looked a little tired, a little loved. Nia Bellamy grew up on Maple Row, 2 streets from the house that would one day make people whisper behind her back. She remembers the smell of her grandmother's kitchen before she remembers almost anything else. Cinnamon. Burnt sugar. The sound of a wooden spoon against a metal pot. Evelyn Bellamy was not a wealthy woman. But her door was never locked. And next door, close enough to hear Evelyn humming through the window, lived a girl named Vivian Ashford. Back then, Vivian wasn't powerful. She wasn't feared. She was just a skinny 10-year-old with 2 missing teeth and a laugh that came too easily. Willow Creek, 11 years ago. Grandma, can Vivian stay for dinner again? Child, that girl has had dinner here more than she's had it at her own house. That's because your food is better, Miss Evelyn. All 3 laugh softly. On Friday nights, Evelyn would cook for anyone who showed up. Didn't matter if you had money. Didn't matter if you'd paid your light bill that month. If you were hungry, you sat down. Nia and Vivian used to sit on the back steps and watch grown men who looked tired in ways children don't understand yet, eat in silence, like the meal was the only good part of their week. Why does your grandma do that? Feed people who can't pay her back. She says, you don't help people because they can pay you back. You help them because they're hungry. I want to be like that one day. She meant it. At 10 years old, lying on a porch step with her chin in her hands, Vivian Ashford meant every word of it. But people change. Sometimes slowly. Sometimes so slowly they don't notice it happening to themselves. Vivian's father lost his business when she was 13. She watched her family go from comfortable to careful, then from careful to ashamed. She watched neighbors who used to wave at her parents start looking past them instead. That was the year Vivian decided something dangerous. Never again. I will never be looked past again. She didn't know it yet, but that decision would cost her the softest part of herself. By the time she was 25, Vivian Ashford had a real estate license, the 5-year plan, and a smile she had practiced in mirrors until it looked effortless. By 30, she owned one of the largest property farms in Willow Creek. People didn't wave past her family anymore. They waved at her. They wanted to be near her.
She told herself that was the same thing as respect. Nia's path looked nothing like that. She left Willow Creek at 18 for nursing school, then for work, small towns, small apartments, long shifts, barely enough left over to send some home to her grandmother every month. She never built an empire. She built patience. She built calloused hands and a habit of checking on elderly neighbors and never once forgot the lesson on that porch step. Evelyn Bellamy grew older. Quieter. Her letters to Nia got shorter, her handwriting less steady. But there was one thing Evelyn never stopped doing, even in her final years, feeding people who couldn't pay her back. Helping families nobody else would help. Quietly. Without telling a soul, not even Nia. And there was one more thing she never stopped doing. Writing things down. Names. Dates. Promises made. Promises kept. Which is exactly why, months later, when the lawyer read Evelyn's will out loud in a quiet office that smelled like old paper and stronger coffee than necessary, the room went very, very still. Because everyone expected Vivian's name. They heard Nia's instead. The office is small. Quiet. The kind of quiet that makes a clock sound too loud. Nia sits at the edge of her chair, hands folded, knuckles pale. The remaining property, the residence on Cedar Hollow Lane, is left in full to Nia Bellamy. Someone exhales. Someone else laughs, just once, just under their breath. The old house. That's it. A few heads turn toward her. Vivian doesn't lower her voice. Well, at least she got something. Nia says nothing. She has learned, over the years, that silence costs nothing and gives nothing away. Her aunt leans toward her, whispering, "Baby, that house has been falling apart for 10 years. Why would your grandmother?" The lawyer clears his throat. There is something else. Mrs. Bellamy left specific instructions regarding the property. She asked that I tell Nia directly. He pauses. Looks down at the folder in his hands like it's heavier than paper should be. That there is something inside the house she wanted you to discover yourself. In your own time. Nia's chest tightens. Discover what? She didn't say. Only that you'd know it when you found it. Across the room, Vivian's smile flickers, just for a second. Just long enough for nobody to notice except Nia. Because Vivian isn't laughing anymore. She's thinking. The lawyer holds out a small brass key, worn smooth at the edges from years of use. Nia takes it. It's lighter than she expects. Lighter than something that's supposed to change a life should be. She doesn't know it yet, but in 3 weeks, she will be standing outside that house with a suitcase in one hand and this key in the other, while the people she once trusted laugh loud enough for the whole street to hear. She doesn't know what's waiting inside those walls. But her grandmother did. The first week is the hardest. Cedar Hollow Lane greets Nia with a roof that sags in the middle, windows bordered with plywood gone soft from rain, and a front door that sticks so badly she has to throw her shoulder into it just to get inside. Inside, dust sits thick on every surface, undisturbed for years. The air smells like mildew and old wood and something faintly like her grandmother's perfume, buried under all of it. Okay, Grandma. Where do I even start? She starts with the windows. Then the roof. Then the wiring, which sparks once, violently, and sends her stumbling back with her heart hammering. Willow Creek does not let her walk in peace. She's still over there. Polishing a ruin. Somebody tell that girl to call Vivian. Take the money and go. Word travels fast on a street with too many opinions and not enough to do. By the second week, strangers slow their cars just to look. Some shake their heads. Some don't bother hiding their smiles. And then Vivian comes back. She arrives in heels that click against the cracked pavement like a countdown. Nia. Look at you, out here getting your hands dirty. Nia doesn't stop sanding the porch railing. Doesn't look up. You know, I've been thinking about you. About this place. My company could take this off for hands. Fair price. More than fair, actually, sentimental bonus, for old time's sake. Nia finally looks up. Studies her for a long moment. Why do you want it so badly, Vivian? Something flickers behind Vivian's eyes, gone before it can be named. I don't want it, sweetie. I'm trying to help you. This place is a sinkhole. You're going to drown trying to save it. Nia goes back to Sunday. Then I guess I learned to swim. Vivian's smile thins. She leaves without another word, but not before her eyes sweep the surrounding lots, calculating, cataloging, the way she always does. Because what Nia doesn't know yet is this: over the past 6 weeks, Vivian's company has quietly purchased 4 of the 5 properties bordering Cedar Hollow Lane. Cedar Hollow is the last piece. The only piece that isn't hers. Days turn into weeks. The repairs eat through Nia's savings faster than she budgeted. A plumber quotes her 3 times what she has. A contractor laughs, actually laughs when she asks about the roof. Mom, with respect, it'd be cheaper to tear the whole thing down and start over. Nia starts doing the work herself. Nights, mostly. By flashlight, when the power cuts out, which it does often. Then the storm comes. Wind howls. Thunder rumbles in the distance. It hits on a Thursday, fast and furious, ripping a section of tarp clean off the roof Nia spent 2 days fixing. Rain pours through the gap, soaking the front room, pulling on floorboards she'd just finished sanding. She stands in the doorway at 2 a.m., soaked, watching water destroy a week of work in 20 minutes. I don't know if I can do this. She sinks down onto the bottom step, the one her grandmother used to sit on every evening, and lets herself cry, really cry, for the first time since the funeral. She reaches into her bag without thinking, fingers finding the folded letter she's carried since the lawyer's office. She hasn't opened it. Not until tonight. Evelyn's handwriting, shaky but familiar, fills the page. My Nia. If you're reading this, you've probably already heard people tell you this house is a mistake. They will tell you to sell it. To let it go. To stop wasting yourself on something broken. Don't listen to them, baby. You are not rebuilding walls. You are rebuilding hope. Some people destroy things simply because they cannot see their purpose. Don't let them convince you that you can't see it either. Nia presses the letter to her chest. Closes her eyes. She doesn't hear the knock at first, soft, hesitant, almost apologetic. When she opens the door, a boy stands there. Maybe 9 years old. Soaked from the rain, clutching a backpack with a broken zipper against his chest. Miss Nia. She blinks at him, startled. Yes. Honey, it's the middle of the night, you shouldn't be. Is it true your grandmother used to help kids here? Like, here, in this house? Nia studies him. Something in his voice, urgent, hopeful, stops her cold. Who told you that? My mom. She said this house was the only place where someone listened to her when nobody else did. She said Miss Evelyn used to let her sleep on the porch when things were bad at home. She said if it wasn't for this house, she doesn't know what would have happened to us. Nia stands in the doorway, rain still falling behind the boy, and feels something shift inside her chest, quiet, but enormous. She never told me. Malachi shrugs, the way kids do when the weight of a moment is too big for them to hold. Are you gonna fix it? The house. Nia looks past him, past the rain, past the broken porch, toward the dark shape of the house behind her, water still dripping through the roof onto the floor she's spent weeks trying to save. And for the first time since she arrived in Willow Creek, she isn't thinking about windows, or wiring, or what the house is worth. Yeah, I am. But not the way I planned. Because suddenly, the house isn't a burden. It isn't a punishment, or a consolation prize, or a problem to be solved with someone else's money. It's a door. One her grandmother left open on purpose. And somewhere across town, in an office with floor-to-ceiling windows and 4 newly purchased deeds locked in a drawer, Vivian Ashford has no idea that the woman she dismissed as desperate just found something worth more than every property she owns combined. 3 days after Malachi's visit, Nia starts staring into the house differently. Not as someone fixing a structure. As someone searching for an answer. She starts in the room her grandmother used as a study, a cramped space behind the kitchen, shelves warped from humidity, boxes stacked floor to ceiling. You'll know it when you find it. Okay, Grandma. Where is it? Hours pass. Dust coats her hands, her hair, the inside of her throat. Then her fingers catch the edge of something behind a loose floorboard, a metal box, rusted at the corners, locked. The brass key from the lawyer's office fits perfectly. A soft click. Inside, stacks of paper, yellowed and brittle. Land agreements. Community records. Dozens of handwritten letters, each signed by a different family name. She reads one at random. Dear Evelyn, I don't know how to thank you for what you did for my children this winter. You didn't just give us a place to stay. You gave us dignity. I will never forget it. Another. Then another. The same gratitude, in different handwriting, across different years. Beneath the letters, a single document, official, stamped, far more formal than the rest. A heritage protection filing. Dated 11 years ago. Listing the Cedar Hollow property as a designated community refuge site, legally shielded from forced sale or commercial redevelopment for as long as it continues serving its stated public purpose. Nia reads it twice. 3 times. She protected it. Years ago. She knew. Evelyn hadn't just helped families quietly for decades, she'd built something legally untouchable around that kindness, long before anyone thought to threaten it. Which means every property deal Vivian has been quietly closing around Cedar Hollow Lane, every lot, every acre, means nothing without this one. The centerpiece. The one she can't simply buy. Because this house was never just sitting here, decaying, waiting to be saved or sold. It was waiting. Armored. Patient. For exactly this moment. And somewhere in town, Vivian is finalizing the paperwork for a public announcement, one she believes will finally bring Cedar Hollow under her control. She has no idea what's sitting in a metal box under a floorboard, 3 days away from ending everything she's built. The Willow Creek Community Hall fills up faster than anyone expects. Folding chairs in neat rows. A podium at the front. Cameras from the local paper, because Vivian Ashford called them herself, told them this would be a defining moment for the neighborhood. She wasn't wrong. Just not in the way she meant. Vivian arrives first, naturally. Tailored blazer, hair pulled back, a folder of glossy renderings tucked under one arm, mock-ups of what Cedar Hollow Lane could become under her company's revitalization vision. Modern townhomes. A boutique row. Everything Willow Creek apparently needs, according to her. Make sure the projector's ready before she even walks in. I want this decided before she opens her mouth. She means Nia. The room buzzes with quiet conversation, neighbors, city council members, 2 reporters, and toward the back, Malachi sitting beside his mother, both leaning forward like they don't want to miss a second of this. Then the door opens. Nia walks in. Not rushed. Not nervous. She's wearing the same simple blouse she wore the day she arrived with her suitcase, but something about the way she carries herself now is different. Steadier. Like the ground finally agrees with her. She's carrying a single folder. Plain. Unremarkable. Nothing like Vivian's polished renderings. A few people in the crowd exchange glances, the same ones who laughed outside the old house weeks ago. Their smiles are smaller now. Uncertain. Thank you all for coming. Today, I want to talk about the future of Cedar Hollow, and how, together, we can finally give this neighborhood the investment it deserves. Polite applause. Vivian clicks to the first slide, glass storefronts, manicured lawns, a fountain that has no business being in this neighborhood's budget. I've spoken with Miss Bellamy, and I believe, with the right support, she'll see that selling now is the responsible choice, for her, and for this community. All eyes shift to Nia. She doesn't stand yet. She waits until Vivian finishes, until the room settles, until the silence stretches just slightly too long. Then she rises. I appreciate Vivian's vision. But before anyone decides what's responsible for this community, I think the community should know a few things. She opens her folder. Walks to the front. Doesn't raise her voice, doesn't need to. 6 weeks ago, I inherited a house everyone here called a disaster. Some of you laughed about it to my face. That's alright. I understand why it looked that way. A few people shift in their seats. What none of us knew, including me, until a few days ago, is that my grandmother filed this house as a protected community refuge site 11 years ago. Legally shielded from forced sale or redevelopment. Mama's report through the crowd. That filing is old, it's likely outdated, there are processes too. It's still active. I checked. Twice. Nia turns a page in her folder. But that's not actually the part one came here to talk about. She holds up a second document. These are records, dates, names, signed agreements, showing that Ashford Realty has spent the last 6 weeks quietly purchasing for properties bordering Cedar Hollow Lane. All from families experiencing financial hardship. All purchased below market value. Some under pressure that, frankly, I think a few of you in this room experience personally. A woman near the front, older, tired-looking, goes very still. Mrs. Okafor. Did Ashford Realty tell you the city was planning to condemn your property if you didn't sell within 30 days? Yes. That's exactly what they told me. Murmurs erupt across the room. Heads turn toward Vivian. That's not, those are standard negotiation practices, that's how. There's no city condemnation filing on record for any property on this street, Vivian. I checked that too. The room turns, almost audibly. Indignant murmurs grow sharper. For the first time since anyone in this room has known her, Vivian Ashford has nothing to say. No smile. No smooth recovery. Just silence, and a folder of glossy renderings that suddenly look like nothing at all. The council member at the front clears his throat, flips through copies of Nia's documents now being passed along the rows. This will need a formal investigation. Effective immediately, all pending Ashford Realty transactions on Cedar Hollow Lane are frozen. Vivian sits down slowly. Doesn't argue. Can't. And this is the part nobody expects, including Vivian. Nia doesn't smile. Doesn't gloat. She closes her folder, walks toward Vivian's side of the room, and stops a few feet away. The whole hall watches. I'm not here to destroy you, Vivian. People who hurt others are often people who forgot what kindness feels like. I remember when you didn't forget. Why are you telling me that? Because protecting people doesn't mean becoming cruel like the people who hurt them. I had every reason to enjoy this moment. I'd rather not become someone who needs to. She turns and walks back to her seat. The room stays quiet for a long moment, the kind of quiet that feels different from the silence at the start. In the back row, Malachi leans toward his mother. She's not even mad. His mother just shakes her head, eyes wet, and squeezes his hand. Vivian sits motionless at the front of the room, staring at the folder of renderings in her lap, glass storefronts and fountains for a neighborhood that never asked for them, and for the first time in over a decade, she has absolutely no idea what to say. The laughter that once followed Nia through Willow Creek is gone. What's left in its place is something Vivian Ashford has spent her whole adult life chasing, without ever quite knowing how to earn it. Respect. 6 months later, Cedar Hollow Lane doesn't look like a ruin anymore. The roof is whole. The windows catch morning light instead of boarding it out. There's a hand-painted sign above the door at simple, unpolished, exactly the way Evelyn would have wanted it. The Nia Bellamy Learning Center. Inside, the sound of children's voices fills rooms that used to sit silent and dust-covered. Malachi sits at a table near the window most afternoons, homework spread in front of him, a tutor leaning over his shoulder. His mother volunteers in the kitchen twice a week, the same kitchen where Evelyn once fed strangers who couldn't pay her back. Nothing about that has changed. Only the hands doing the feeding. Families who once whispered about that broken house now bring their children through its doors every morning. The same neighbors who laughed outside in the cold now stop by with donated books, second-hand desks, fresh paint nobody asked them for. Nobody talks about the inheritance anymore. Not the way they used to. One afternoon, a letter arrives at the center. Plain envelope. No return address, but Nia recognizes the handwriting before she even opens it. She sits on the porch steps to read it, the same steps her grandmother used to sit on every evening. Nia. I've started this letter 4 times and thrown it away 3. I don't know how to apologize for something I spent years convincing myself wasn't wrong. I think I started chasing success because I was terrified of becoming invisible again, the way I felt the year my father lost everything. Somewhere along the way, I forgot that the version of me who wanted to be like your grandmother was the only version worth becoming. I'm not asking you to forgive me. I don't think I've earned that yet. I just needed you to know, I see it now. What you built. What I almost destroyed. I'm sorry. Nia folds the letter slowly. Doesn't smile. Doesn't cry either. Just sits with it for a long moment, the way you sit with something true. Took her long enough. Not bitter. Just honest. She doesn't write back right away. But she doesn't throw the letter away either. She tucks it into the same metal box where her grandmother kept every letter that ever mattered, next to the heritage filing, next to the gratitude of families who needed somewhere to belong. Because acceptance and excusing harm are not the same thing. Nia understands that now, maybe better than anyone. That evening, after the last child has gone home and the center sits quiet, Nia walks through the rooms one more time. Touches the doorframe she repaired with her own hands. Looks at the photograph of her grandmother now hanging by the entrance, the same one she carried in her suitcase the day she arrived.
They thought I inherited an old house. They had no idea what you actually left me.
Some people inherit money. Some inherit property, polished and easy, requiring nothing but a signature. But the greatest inheritance, the kind that doesn't get spent, or sold, or taken away, is becoming someone whose kindness keeps going long after you're gone. The people who laughed at Nia thought she'd inherited an old house. They never realized she'd inherited a legacy.